finding your passion in 2020? What was the inspiration? What got you into the sport initially?
That's a very good question. So bit of a backstory. I've always been playing racing games my whole life, and I always knew in myself that I wanted to become a racing driver. Just had no idea how to become one because of the lack of funds and whatnot. Racing being so expensive. But if you want me to be honest, actually the reason I got into sim racing because of this guy. Once I found out ERGP was hosted by Alex Yoong, I thought, heck, who else to impress in this whole country racing other than him? So that's what got me into it. That's what motivated me to go into sim racing and do well in it.
I think
I've got a question. How many hours do you put in a day for your practice?
So for us as sim drivers, we always need to put in a lot of time, as you know, because if you're not putting in the time, you know the competitors are. So it's all about putting the effort in, and so we as sim drivers, coming up to a race weekend, we put up to minimum 3 hours a day. So that's only because for me personally, I have other commitments like school and whatnot. So 3 hours is like the minimum that I put in, but if I have more time, normally I do, let's say, 2 hours in the morning, 3 hours at night. Yeah.
so it's an interesting question because in motorsports, before sim driving came, you'd only ever get in the car for the race weekend or for testing. That's my generation as well. So it was very hard to put in the hours. And in sports, if you really want to get good at something, you need to repeat. You need to have repeatability, and you need to be able to do drills and to practice the different scenarios, different cars, and different testing. And we haven't had that opportunity to do that in racing until sim driving has come along. So we have some guys. Have some of the drivers who have day jobs, who've got school, they can't put in those hours. But I know some of the young students who do have the time, they put in crazy amounts of hours. And I think you have to put in a crazy amount of hours at the beginning. Then once you reach a certain level and you start knowing what you can do, then you can be more specialized about what you can do. Because we do not recommend you spend 8 hours a day just doing sim driving. The diminishing returns you'll get. So, and that is one of the things like esports, it can get tricky that way, because they're crazy, sitting in front of a screen for a crazy amount of hours is not good for you. So we break it up. Naquib hits the gym, goes training, we always try and keep it into the sport, so you're always part of the sport, There's sim drivers here who now run competitions or do marshalling or something, because if you love the sport, you find other stuff to do in the sport, but you can't do 9 hours straight every day, on weeks on end, because that's detrimental to your health. So you have to break it up and make sure that you have a very concentrated period, but then you do other stuff, like go to the gym, or practice your mental skills training and stuff like that.
Sorry, I got a question. This year, do you remember how many laps that you went through? Did you recall?
How many laps? That's, I guess, impossible to keep count. With the amount of endurance races we do, I think,
Thousands.
I would say in a month, minimum 1,000. Made a month, so yeah, add it up, I guess.
Yeah, I have a question, if it works. So how much of sim racing training is transferable to real world, do you find?
Oh yeah. From what I found, incredibly quite a lot. I get people don't see that early on, especially. But nowadays, I think you see more sim drivers coming into real world, and the moment they jump into the car, they're on it. They're on the pace as the guys who've been doing it for their whole career. So what we don't see is that sim racing has come to a new level where the skills that you learn in sim racing is completely transferable into the real world, one-to-one. Yes, there's slight differences, mainly in the physical side, because you don't have that sensation that can affect your performance in real world. But all the other skills, such as throttle input, understanding how the car moves through the corners, that's completely transferable to real world. So for me, I think thanks to sim racing, it made my transition really smooth.
Yep. Thank you. And to Alex, how transferable are real world skills into sims?
Okay, so I'm old school, so for me getting into sim is very tough. And it's like this basically, because when you race on a sim like this, the screen, it's like driving with one eye, because it's a 2D screen. So you have no depth perception, and you have no sensation of speed. So that's why when the sim drivers do it, they get used to like driving with one eye, because they pick up other visual cues, the speed of the graphics moving, the sensation they're feeling through the wheel, timing, how they count. It's just like gymnasts. The timing on floor exercises, imperative, knowing when to tuck and roll and all that stuff is very important. So they learn the timing without any of the visual cues we get as in real life. So that's why when the sim drivers come on, like, I can see everything, I can feel everything, this is so easy, I suddenly have so many inputs. So for the pro drivers and myself who come to sims late, it's really tough. I'm like, whoa, I can't judge my speed, I keep missing my braking, I go way past, when I first got into sim driving, when we first started doing e-racing GP, I was very, not skeptical, but I was very, I didn't see what lessons could be learned. But then after watching the boys, and some of them, only been doing it a couple of years, or Yang Ming, or the other kids who are just only started, and the things they pick up within a year, I see some of the lessons they pick up, like, wow, I only learned that after 10 years of racing in Europe, and they're picking up these small nuances, and I'm like, holy crap. Maybe it doesn't feel exactly the same because you can never replicate the exact feeling, but the things they learn, I'm like, wow, that's impressive.
So moral of the story is start with sim racing and hope for the best in the real world. Anybody? More questions?
How was your experience racing in France?
So racing in France for me was very nerve-wracking. I think because you have the whole nation on your shoulders technically, because you're representing them and you want to do well for them. You want to make them proud. So when people ask me how France was, I never really got to enjoy France because I was really, really focused on the racing. But yeah, it paid off. It's honestly not so different racing online and at a land event, on an on-ground event, because technically you're still in your rig, in the zone, but the difference was racing against those guys. Those are the best of their nations, and there's like 20 of them in the whole rig, like racing in one race, and the level of competitiveness was something that I've never experienced. Obviously, we do the Le Mans virtual races, which is against some of the best as well, but those are across the whole championship. This is for one race only, so everyone is pushing to win that, and the intensity was insane. Something that I don't think can ever be replicated, other than another on-ground event, I guess. But yeah, it was something that I took a lot of knowledge from, and an experience that can hopefully make me better in the future and stuff that I can work on. Yeah.
Alex, are you looking for more Naquib, or is there can only be one Naquib?
No, definitely more. Definitely more. Motorsports, especially here in Malaysia, it's very stagnant now since the 90s. If you look before the last couple of years, you'll still see the same faces who've been competing since the 90s and still winning at the front. And the level hasn't really changed, because you race at one track and you only race 1.6 meter touring class. That's it. So the great thing on sim racing, you've got so many new kids coming in, and you see them all sitting here. And not everyone's going to make it to the top, yeah? But, there's community building where everyone helps each other out and you're trying to go further. Naquib's just the first of many, I hope. And it's not just from Malaysia. Got 2 kids who are 10 from Philippines who are very strong. One from Singapore is 14 who's going to be world class. One from Indonesia, a couple from Indonesia, So you can really see them coming up already. He's just the first. There'll be lots more coming through as well. And the great thing about it is if you can put in the work, you have the time to put in the work, of course, and you do put in the work, you do see the results on the track, which is great, because real life racing, sometimes if you don't have the opportunities, you don't have the sponsorship, it doesn't matter how good you are, you'll never win.
Sorry, I have a question. Naquib, so you've raced Sims, you've raced real life. Which one of the two had the more memorable winning experience?
Yes. Yeah, it's a tough question to answer. Both for me, sim racing and real life racing is very enjoyable. I find a lot of satisfaction doing both. But I feel because sim racing, you race against international drivers and putting down Malaysians level, but just the competitive level internationally is much higher. Winning in sim racing is a lot more enjoyable because these guys are putting in just as much work as you are, and you have to be perfect to win here. You can't make any mistakes. In real life racing, there's a lot more other factors. You can get lucky with car issues or mechanical issues like whatnot. But in sim racing, everything's equal, everyone's on the same page. Especially if it's fixed setup, then it's even more so. It's all about the driver. So winning in sim racing for me is a bit more satisfactory.
Thank you.
Naquib, which one felt like the top 4 in the morning or winning sporting class?
But that's specific.
Top 4 in Le Mans virtual or winning sporting class? That's a hard question.
But technically you beat Max Verstappen, so
That is true. But yeah, I think the more enjoyable feeling was winning Le Mans. I mean, not winning Le Mans, but finishing top 4 in Le Mans virtual. I think because ask Alex, ask Josh, ask our whole team. We put in so much effort for that race. For one single race, we put in hours and hours for a whole month. Nothing else, no other track, just that one single track, one single car, and laps around that. So that was, and to finally pay off after what had been a super tough season to that point, not even finishing in the top 10 once that whole season. So for us to come out finishing top 4 out of the best races in the world, like you said, Max Verstappen, yeah, that was one feeling that, can't be repeated.
Can I just ask about sponsorship? Because, like my son, his setup is really terrible, and then how do you all actually go about getting sponsorship if you want to go to the
It's hard. Sponsorship obviously is, you have to go around and you've got to be making the calls, to be honest. You've got to get a lot of rejections, that's part and parcel, but you just got to be out there. You need to get the results as well, and that's why we do this, because we have such high volume, gives everyone a chance to get good results. If you can go and say you're a bronze class champion and you're doing this next year, at least it's something you can point to. I wouldn't worry too much about the equipment, because people winning on G29s and other really crappy pedals, which I cannot drive at all. So his pedals are, I don't know how you drive them, they're junk. But anyway, so but the coaching is important too. There are some good teams. FSA here is a good team as well. You got to race with good teams because then you race with like-minded people. So don't be scared to reach out to teams because if you're just driving by yourself all the time, it's very hard to learn. But you're driving with a community of drivers who all want the same thing, and the drivers are pretty open with each other. We all try and help each other. That's how that accelerates the learning.
Yeah, quick question to Alex. What's your long-term vision for ERTP as a whole? You want to see more drivers transitioning? You want to have more pro drivers, single drivers, pro sim drivers?
Well, long-term vision obviously is so that we don't talk about sim driving and real-life driving in separate terms. It's all one thing. The numbers are getting good here. We're growing as a sport that keeps growing. I think hopefully all the drivers are coming from sim racing into real life. Because I think we're showing, through all the different examples, that sim drivers are coming in really very well prepared. But each sport obviously is facing its own same challenges, which is, getting the viewership and getting the numbers and stuff. So, sim driving is getting the numbers now, but it needs to keep growing. And if it keeps growing, then hopefully we reach a tipping point where it becomes easier for sponsors to come in, so that they can come and sponsor the drivers. Obviously, that's the long-term goal, so we can have more drivers, instead of maybe just 1 or 2 getting picked up by sponsors each year, we can get 10, maybe 20 getting picked up by sponsors. But the whole industry needs to grow first before that happens. Because our big bottleneck here in Malaysia is the fact that we only got 1 track. As you know. So for now, everyone has to do it on the sim. That's the only place to get more experience with more tracks.